Good Monday morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
All right,
Good morning.
all right. We got some people alive today. All right. It means we had a good weekend. What's going on out there? Who's going to start us with a win? Don't make me do it. Seriously? Come on. I'll share a win. I got a bunch of wins over the weekend. Keely, what do you got?
I have a personal listing coming to market next week, which is super nice in Wales, Mass.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So it was just a referral from a past client, and it was her hairdresser. So she sent her over to me, and yeah. So we're going to be listing. We got pictures Wednesday, and then we'll list next week.
I will tell you, one of the things that I talk about, if you read my networking playbook for agents, which I highly recommend you guys, I know it's probably a 15-minute read, if that, so if you haven't gone into Zendesk, or if you're not from Rovi, gone on to stevervithis.com and download that networking playbook for agents. There's a ton of little stuff in there about how to develop the sphere, how to work the sphere, how to get sphere deals. But I will tell you, probably one of the number one places that I've gotten referrals is from hairdressers. So I am somebody that's cut my hair for the most, pretty much since college. Matter of fact, haircut this morning. Depend on my wife to trim up the back, which she absolutely loves to do every time I cut my hair. That's a joke. But I will tell you, hairdressers, they sit there and they know every little detail about the person that's sitting in that chair, right? So if you are looking for business and you're wherever you're going to get your hair done is not sending you deals, you need to go somewhere else to get your hair done. And I'm being serious. A good hairdresser should be worth a couple of deals a year to a real estate agent. Right? We've had hairdressers come into our industry. One of our top agents cut hair part-time and sold real estate part-time, doing 20 plus transactions a year, all personal business. She would get it out of her chair. It's either the person in the chair that's buying or selling, they know somebody that's buying or selling, but they are, for you women, I don't know, how long do you sit there on average in that chair? Somebody throw a number at me.
2 hours.
Yeah. You get to know somebody, and I know they kind of go and do other things. And even for the guys, I mean, I was, when we were in East Long Meadow, I was going across the street and getting my hair cut because I thought I was fancy. And so spending some money instead of saving some money and going over there and getting my hair cut. What's the name of that place? It's a great salon.
Isn't it
Somebody help me out.
Ochoa over there?
Oh, yeah, Ochoa. Perfect. And the gentleman over there, I probably did that for 2 years. I bet you he sent me 4 deals. I mean, so I'm being serious about this one. I don't know if I bolded it in networking playbook for agents, but this is a treasure trove of real estate business. So think about where you're getting it done. If you're not getting your hair cut, I think it's worth the spending the money every month. If you're in the real estate business. So little side tangent there. Anybody got a story around that? Anybody have somebody that's sending them business? Anybody's hairdresser sending them, barber sending them some business? If they're not, you guys aren't asking enough, not telling them enough. Right? Don't be sitting there just getting your hair cut and not talking. Get the conversation going. Drop a little hint here or there. This is what you do. This is how I help. Everything's crazy stuff going on in the industry right now. Clients need a great agent. That's who I am. I do this full time, trying to get better every single day. Make sure that hairdresser, that barber knows that this is what you do and that you're taking this serious. So anybody else with a win? All right. let me today's message is around what are called mental models. So mental models are like kind of frameworks for thinking about the world. In my time, I'm trying to look at some different mental models, and I came across this one I'd never heard of. Um, and a mental model needs to kind of be adaptable to whatever's going on in life. It can't just be something that works in your personal life. It doesn't work in your professional. It really should be pretty adaptable. And this one came from Sahil Bloom, who's one of the guys that I follow. And he talks about a winner's game versus a loser's game. And the way that he described it is he says he arrived at Stanford, so he's a Stanford grad, went there to play baseball, standout high school pitcher. And he got to Stanford and he felt like, hey, I gotta step it up. This is Stanford. I'm playing Division I baseball now. I'm gonna have to throw it harder and be more precise. And I don't know if it was for the entirety of his first season, but for a good chunk of it, real big failure when it comes to pitching. And pitching, I think, is definitely one of those things where it's a lot of a mental game, just like hitting. You can get streaky in baseball. And one of the coaches, came up to him and said, "Hey, man, you're playing the wrong game." And he said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, you're playing a winner's game. You're trying to make these perfect pitches so that the guy, can't hit the ball." And he said, "Pitching is more of a loser's game, meaning just try not to make mistakes, right? Keep it over the plate, try and hit the edges, but try and not throw the one that's right down the middle, right? You got here because of some more of an accuracy and balls were getting put in play, but they're not hitting home runs." And he's like, now you're giving up home runs because you're trying to make the perfect pitch. And so I think it's important that we understand the difference of a winner's game, which is where you've got to make these great shots all the time, and a loser's game. And he gave me another sports analogy when he was talking about this, where he said, tennis is the opposite, right? Depending on the level that you're playing. So when you start in tennis, it starts as a loser's game, meaning if you can just keep the ball in play, the other guy's probably going to mess up, right? I've played a lot of racket sports. I love racket sports, and I've never played at a super high level. But to be honest, like thinking back, that was my strategy. I knew I could keep the ball in play. I couldn't hit great winners, but I could keep it in play, and eventually I'd just wear down my opponent. But then when you get to the pro level, the game changes, and now it is a winner's game, and the pros can hit the winning shots. And if you're just going to sit there and try and keep the ball in play, they're going to slam it down your throat. So even within the same sport, you're playing two different games. So, how do we apply this to real estate? I definitely think it's more of a loser's game. You don't have to hit a ton of great shots, but you do have to be consistently doing the things that generate the activity, having the conversations, in the barber's chair, always talking real estate, just a little here, a little there. Just keep yourself in the game. You don't have to, we see some agents come in, and I've got one agent in my mind who was doing okay and just knocking down, some sales, doing $200,000, $300,000 houses, and got completely absorbed in a deal that was like a $12 million listing. Took up an entire year and got so focused on hitting this home run instead of just hitting the singles and the doubles and just staying in the game, getting more past clients, building more relationships, learning how to negotiate deals. So when we look at real estate, I definitely think it's more of a loser's game. And I think it really comes down to just playing, keeping the ball in play, just having conversations, knowing your CRM, knowing who's hot and who's not. And don't, the home runs are going to come. You're going to nail a big listing here or there, or a big buy side here or there. You're going to double side one here or there. But I think it's more of a loser's game, and be okay with that. because the more sales you can do, the more knowledge you have, the more experience you get, you start to see things. We've talked about that before they even happen. So interesting mental model. I think you can use this in a lot of different aspects of your life. Just try and look at whatever might not be going the way that you want it to go. Is it a winner's game or is it a loser's game? And what game am I playing right now? So anybody have any thoughts on this one? I will say most things in life, I think, are more of a loser's game. But the winner's game is it's sexy and it sells a little bit more, right? If you're at a dinner party and I don't know, you're talking health and fitness and you're trying some new fad and it's working for you and people are interested, right? Versus if you just kind of the loser's game, but we know that it works is, hey, I exercise every day. I eat whole foods, a balanced diet. I get good sleep. Not so sexy, but sexy self, whether it's on social media, it's at the dinner party, like that's what people are interested in. But most of the time, it's that loser's game that's going to win out. You think about, I don't know, there's a lot of different things. You think about investing and somebody's got the latest and the greatest stock. That's sexy. What are you doing? Versus, I invest in index funds and I just have it set to auto drop $1,000 in there every month. Loser's game when it comes to investing, for sure, in my mind. That's the easy way to set it and forget it, play the long game versus the sexy stuff that's going to sell at the dinner party. So, yeah, I'll open it up one more time. Jeff and Linda.
Good morning. There's an excellent book that that corresponds with what you're talking about, and it's called The Slight Edge. And I cannot recommend this book more highly. And basically, the premise is that consistency over time in your activities is going to move you exponentially in a positive direction or in a negative direction. And so it's not about the big sexy one-offs, if you will, but it's about the daily habits that compound over time like interest. And the book is so brilliant. I can't recommend it more highly. The Slight Edge.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Linda. Margareta.
Morning, all. It reminds me of a poem I heard early on in my engineering studies. It was about creating a best cart, for driving, and it was designed to last over 100 years, and it never broke. Well, it costed so much money. It's like and it never broke, but like nobody actually even lived around to see it. Throughout its old age. So it's not about the perfection. It's about the 80-20 rule, show up, be there, consistency. And then it's more than 50% for sure, if you want to go into like more of a number thing. But like what you're saying, it's not going to be sexy, but it's not the perfection, but it's really a lot of work.
Cool. All right. Well, hopefully there was something there. Hopefully there's an aspect of your life that you could take this mental model, you could look at it, see what you think the game really is, what game you're playing, and maybe make some adjustments. Let's flip it over to some real estate. Who had something happen over the weekend? That'd be a great share for the group. We had something come in from our leadership team around moving dates. You know, how often is it okay to move dates, and what's realistic for moving dates, and when do I need to be alarmed? And this can be a tricky one. I mean, stuff definitely comes up. But like most things in real estate, I think setting the expectations up front when it comes to your dates um, is how you get a good reputation in the industry. If you're an agent that's constantly asking for extensions on inspections, or constantly asking for extensions on mortgage, or constantly asking for extensions on closing, like, you didn't prepare well. And so if you look back at some of your deals and you feel like you're doing that stuff, right, hopefully there's a learning opportunity there for you, that either you're not, getting things rolling fast enough right out of the gates, or you didn't set realistic expectations from the get-go. You don't have the right preferred partners. But a couple of reasonable extensions, are okay, and probably nothing to worry about, especially when it comes to mortgage. Oftentimes, I think a lot of the delays that we see are for two reasons. Number one, the appraiser's just not getting an appraisal back, right? So sometimes it can take a little while to get those appraisals ordered or to get them executed. And then the other thing is, typically it's not the lender, it's the consumer not getting the docs that the lender is asking for. Right? So one of the things as agents that you guys should be working with your consumer is advising them that, hey, look, we want to hit our dates. So they're going to ask you for every document under the sun, but let's get it to them as fast as possible. So if there are any hiccups, it can get to underwriting, it can come back, and then we can get them the additional documents that they need. But setting those expectations with your clients up front, that they're going to ask for a lot of docs, we got to get all of our ducks in a row, right? Knowing kind of the general list of documents and providing that at a buyer's consultation would be a good recommendation. I think Semper has like a PDF. Our preferred has a PDF of, hey, here's the typical docs that we ask for. An educated buyer's agent is giving that to their client when you start having those conversations. Hey, here's the things that are typically going to get asked for. Start getting this stuff ready, and let's get you pre-approved. Anybody have any questions with the actual timelines? If somebody we're having an issue with closing, there's a title issue, something like that, 2-week extension, pretty reasonable. And there's nothing that really says like this is too much, this is too little. But a second 2-week extension on a closing, so now we're at 30 days. I would say that that's still pretty reasonable. Things do happen in real estate. Maybe you had a mortgage extension, now you get a closing extension. When it starts to get past 30 days, something's probably not right. There are extenuating circumstances. And so you're in this tough spot where the buyer's asking for an extension and you're the listing agent. It's like, do you want to give them 2 more weeks? They've already asked for 2 2-week extensions. And your options are, I give this person 2 more weeks, or I come back to market. And we've talked about what happens typically when you come back to market. You don't have that buzz. You're not going to have as much interest, right? So you really got to understand, hey, I'll give you 2 more. That's going to make it 6. But I need to know exactly where we are at. Why are we needing this? I'm not just haphazardly signing off on an extension for my client. Lauren.
So, real funny one here. At the end of a transaction, was supposed to close, whatever, the 25th or something. Everybody agreed an extension to the 5th of the next month, right? And then within this last week, the buy side is like, nope, we can close on the, the 31st or the 1st. Okay. As soon as we see that clear to close, we'll pick a date. Then they're like, no, we can do it the 30th or the 31st. As soon as we can, we're going to close. And I was like, no, we might need at the 5th. I was like, all right, well, let's just stay. We have the 5th picked, right? This is like a lot of back and forth. It's probably causing extra stress. Sellers are okay with the 5th. The buyers were okay with the 5th. Instead of rushing everything here, I was like, let's keep that date. It's going to work for everybody rather than, day of everybody trying to run around. That day's already set an expectation. Let's roll with it rather than every single day coming up with maybe tomorrow, maybe tomorrow, maybe tomorrow. And then trying to pull the attorneys in. Hey, nope, we want to close today, right? I know we said this day, but It was just a lot. So on the list side, being like, hey, you know, you're a maybe this day, maybe this day. Let's stick with this date. Attorneys are all on board. Signings are all set. Everything should be done. Let's stop trying to poke it around day here, day there.
I think, definitely trying to jam it in and assume that all the parties are going to be able to jam it in a couple of days. I think picking something that's out in the future, everybody's got some time to breathe. Everybody will definitely have their, ducks in a row. Makes sense. But do be careful when you are trying to play with the dates to not just get aggressive unless you've got all parties fully on board, listing agents on board, buyers agents on board, attorneys on board, both attorneys are on board, right? Especially during the summer, you got vacations, they're out, the holiday, this, that, the other, be careful. Who's got an experience to share around extensions, changing dates, anything coming to mind that would be a good share for the group? Okay. No questions out there about how to pick a date? No questions on extensions? No stupid questions, remember. Just throw it out there. If you don't know, throw it out there, we'll knock it down.
I guess I have a question. It's just that like a lot of it, like when it comes to extensions, it all depends on the lender. So right now we're just waiting to get a clear to close. And I was thought that even though we are still waiting on the clear to close, and we got the mortgage commitment, but we still need to have an extension for another mortgage commitment. And it's just a lot of back and forth. Like the lender, like still waiting, and have to go back and forth with the listing agent. Like, hey, can we get in like another extension or another extension? Yeah, it's just a matter of just like my guess is that just have a conversation with this lender, or because because a lot of things is uncertain. They gotta wait to hear back from the underwriters and all of that.
No, this is a great question, and it really has to do with this extension stuff and how we handle things at Rovi and how other places handle things. And you're going to get pushback sometimes from a lender regarding how we handle mortgage commitment, right? So when we have a mortgage date in our contract, if we go past that date and the lender cannot get the mortgage, right? This is nothing to do with the seller. The lender cannot get the mortgage. Your buyer is going to lose that deposit. So what we do at Rovi that's a little bit different is we are looking for a full mortgage commitment by that date, right? With a clear to close, meaning we've got everything. So it's a mortgage commitment. And on top of that, we want a clear to close. What you're going to find from a lot of lenders is, oh, we've got a commitment. And then you get the commitment letter and there's 4 conditions on there. So if you get a commitment letter and it's got conditions on it and you don't file an extension and the lender gets one of those, one of the conditions could be, oh, we need the most recent pay stub. Well, the most recent pay stub shows that they didn't get the overtime that they've been getting. Now the lender can't do the loan and now your buyer's going to lose their deposit. And the lender just goes, sorry. Meanwhile, your buyer has lost their deposit. So we want no conditions left. We are clear to close before we are going to let that mortgage commitment date go by. So you need to understand, right? You need something in writing from a lender. Our preferred understands this, but everybody else doesn't. And they're going to say, yep. If you just ask a general lender, hey, mortgage date's tomorrow, we good? Yep, we're good. We got commitment. And then something comes back and they can't do the loan, you think they're going to give the buyer their deposit back?
Right.
The buyer's coming to you and going, what do you mean I lose my deposit here? Right? So we've got to be very clear with these lenders. I need a full commitment. I know that this deal is going through. Yeah.
With 2 other things, right? So if you have everything from the lender, and the only thing you're waiting on is deed and title from the attorney, then you can move forward without an extension. But you gotta extend if there's any conditions in the lender, like what Steve's saying, right? You have to extend, even if the seller hasn't signed yet, but your buyer signed the extension and sent it over to them. It covers your buyer on their side, so that deposit may not be at risk, right? So I just quick 2 points right there.
Yeah, and I want to reiterate what he's saying. You might get a mortgage commitment that says it's subject to clean title, and I don't know, something else that is on the seller. Let's just say, if there's a separate paragraph in the contract that says if the seller can't provide clean title, then you can back out and get your money back. So we're good with that. If it's seller dependent stuff that the lender is waiting on, that's fine. But if it's anything to do with the buyer or the buy side and it's on that mortgage commitment, we do not have ourselves clear to close, and we cannot let that mortgage date go by. And sometimes what you're going to do is, you may have already extended one time, and now the listing agent's going, God, another extension? Send over the mortgage commitment, show that they're literally just waiting on this one doc, have the lender call the listing agent. We're good. I'm just waiting on this one doc. We don't expect any issues with it, right? And this is where your preferred partners are really important, that you've got an open line of communication, that you've got somebody that's willing to call that listing agent and explain what's going on.
That's a good idea.
Any other? Yeah. Go ahead, Pat.
Well, one other thing with regards to if you're extending. So if you extend now mortgage commitment and closing date to the same day, there's typically in Massachusetts at least a 3-day window that the attorneys need to get all the numbers correct. So it's the TRID law or whatever it is. So I've had it where I've extended both things, closing and mortgage commitment, to the same day, and then all of a sudden the attorneys are like, dude, we need 3 days. So then you have to extend closing again. So just be aware of that as well.
Great point. We can't extend them both to the same date. Closing should be 3 days post mortgage. Anybody thinking of anything else that's come up recently on an extension they did, or something that we haven't hit on extensions? The other thing that I think it was Pat mentioned, with the way that we write our extensions here, it says we are requesting this extension. If you're not okay with this extension, then we'd like to back out of the deal and get our deposit back. So that you don't have a situation where the seller goes, well, we didn't extend, so you're past your date. You guys asked for an extension, but we didn't grant it. So you're past your date. We're going to retain that deposit. Right. So make sure you're using the right forms that have that language that protects your buyer in case, because a lot of times you don't get a signature from the other side. So we want to have a document that's the way that we're doing our extension. All right, any final thoughts or questions around extensions? Cool. All right, guys. Let's have ourselves a great start to the week. Hopefully your Monday is awesome, and I can't wait to do this again tomorrow morning. Take care.
Have a good one.
Thank you, guys. Have a great one, everybody.
Thank you.